Hey there, it's Mike here. And if there's one thing that I've always been interested in, it's retiring early. I think anyone that has the opportunity to work less years, not having to work until they're 65 years old, and being able to retire at a younger age where you have more energy, this is something that everyone wants to do. However, most people don't take the right actions in order to achieve this. Most people delay retirement until later in life when they think that, okay, I'll have enough money then, and then I'll be able to do the things that I've always wanted to do my entire lifetime. Now, the problem with this is by the time that you get to that age, you no longer have that energy. Maybe you have the money, maybe you don't, but you're not the same person that you were when you were 30, 40, 50 years old. So when I came across a video called To Retire Early with $2.5 million, we took these actions, I was really interested in it. I wanted to see how this couple was able to retire at 39 years old with such a large amount of money. A lot of people are able to make this type of retirement by the age of perhaps 65 years old, but how are they able to make that much and have so much saved by 39 years old? So let's go ahead and watch this video together. Oh, and make sure that you hit that like button as it really helps out with my YouTube channel and I appreciate it. And hit the subscribe button and bell notification if you haven't already. I'm going to go ahead and give them a like and let's watch it.
Hey guys, it's Aman
and Christina from Our Rich Journey.
Today's video is a special video because we are going to be talking about the actions you can take right now in order to retire early. And we're going to do this by sharing some of the things that we did on our journey to.
I think when people talk about retiring early, and whenever we talk about money like this, people's like red flags start going up. They start being a little bit like they're hesitating. Okay, what are they trying to sell me? How are they able to do this? Maybe the reason that they were able to retire early is because they got lucky. Well, I'm interested to see what the truth is here.
Financial independence and retiring early. If you know Christina and I's story, you know that we saved over $2 million in less than 10 years. In fact, we were able to save $2.5 million in 8 years.
I wonder if they actually saved the $2.5 million or if they made another amount of cash and they invested that cash in different assets. One thing that I've seen a lot of people do, a lot of my smart friends, they either have real estate or they have stocks. And either one or the other or a combination of the two. I can't think of anyone that I know that isn't well off that doesn't have some sort of an asset like that that builds passive income for them, or at least semi-passive income.
So in today's video, we want to talk about the nitty-gritty things you can do in order to achieve financial independence and retire early. Now, the traditional retiree retires between 60 to 65.
I think that's interesting. Like we wait until we're 60, 65 to retire here. But the thing about these two is they're retired, but they're still working. I mean, essentially, they're still making YouTube videos. They're it looks like they have a course that they sell. They're retired in a sense, but I think that a better term for them would be that they're relaxed now. They are simply comfortable. They don't have to work if they don't want to. They're doing what they really want to do in life, which is create these videos. It looks like they travel and enjoy themselves.
But not the early retiree. Anything you can do in order to retire before 60, you are an early retiree. So some of the things that we're going to be talking about, if you just take action and do just some of these things, we think you can move that date up even sooner.
It's interesting. I was just thinking to myself, like, am I kind of retired? And I'm not, of course, I'm not retired, but I'm at a point in my life where I've built up enough income so that I have assets that work for me. I've got stocks, I have real estate. These things help me to like pay for food and my housing and like those different bills. But I'm kind of like them. I'm going and working and doing things that I want to be doing. Like these videos right here. This video, technically it's work, but it's also something that I enjoy. So I'm curious for you, is there a magic number that you need to have in your bank account in order to be like retired? Go ahead and put that in the comments below. What's your magic number that you need to have saved up in assets in order to be retired?
So if you're new to our channel is all about making money, saving money, and investing money on the road to financial independence. Like Aman said, we were on that road to financial independence for 8 years. We quit our federal government jobs and we retired here in Portugal. We now live in Portugal, the retired life and the early retired life. We've been featured on Good Morning America, on Business Insider, on the Daily Mail, in the Parade magazine.
I wonder, with these two people working together, this couple, working as a couple, I'm sure you can all understand different people have different like goals, different spending. Like I might be willing to spend money on something and my wife is willing, like, no, she'd never spend money on that. Like I'll go out and for me, I'll spend money on drinks and a nice dinner, but she thinks to herself, no, she'd rather spend money on something like a purse or shoes. Like why waste money on these other things when she could be buying something that is going to be more tangible, which it's that kind of back and forth, which can make it really difficult for couples to agree on money, how they're going to spend it, how they're going to save it.
Now, one thing that we want to say before we get into these actions you can take is that everyone should calculate their FIRE number or their financial independence number. This is the amount of money that you would need in assets in order to call yourself financially independent, because those assets are covering your expenses in retirement. So let's talk about the first action you should take, and it is calculating your savings rate. If you have never done this, I think is up there with knowing your net worth or your FIRE number or the amount of debt you have.
I think a lot of people, when it comes to like your savings rate, for me, I put as much money as I can into my retirement accounts, into my banking account. I try to take any money that I make and just get rid of it, so I stop thinking that I can spend it. I think the wrong way people get money, like they'll have an extra $1,000 in their savings account or their checking account, and they're like, okay, what can I go buy with that? For me, I think to myself, okay, how can I invest that? How can I just get that away? How can I get that money to start making money for me?
Calculating your savings rate is the key to financial independence, because with this savings rate, it means that you are able to estimate when you will actually be able to retire.
So your savings rate takes into account how much money you're making, obviously how much you're saving, how much you're spending, and that extra money that you're making in order to reach FIRE early. So it's very important that you have this number in mind. For Aman and I, on our journey to financial independence, our goal for our savings rate was 70%, and we actually reached that rate. We didn't start at that rate. We worked our way up to it. And this is very important for you to work your way up to a high savings rate so that you can retire early.
I'm curious if you can put in the comments below, what percentage of your income are you saving? I see a lot of these online like gurus where we talk about putting like 10%, 5, 10, 15%. But really, if you want to retire early, you have to put in a lot more than that. And that can be really uncomfortable for a lot of people. They can say, well, I'm already having a hard time getting by right now on what I'm earning. And that's understandable, but the more that you can put away, the more that you can start saving, really the easier it gets over time, especially when you have these passive income investments that you've made that start bringing in extra income for you. So the earlier you can start saving, really the better.
Now, what goes into calculating your savings rate? It is any money that goes towards increasing your net worth. So if it's money that you're putting into your savings account, money that you are investing every month, the mortgage principal that you're paying down every month, that should all go into your calculated savings rate.
So let's talk about the next thing, because what goes hand in hand with saving money for early retirement is also investing money for early retirement. It's very important that you have an investment plan. And for us, our goal was to invest very aggressively in order to hit our goal of retiring before 40 years old.
Here's the thing. These two invested very aggressively. However, it looks like if they did this in the last 10 years, we've been in a bull market, meaning that the market kept on going up since the end of around 2010, 2011. We've been in a bull market since then. So they've been extremely lucky in the fact that they invested at a time where the market just kept on going up, up, up. Now in 2020, in March specifically, we saw a huge drop. And then of course it went back up again. But who knows what it's going to do now in the future. It recently just went down again. So they did conveniently get, they invested at a time when the market's been going up, up, up. Now that also the market could go down. And with investing, I'm not trying to give you any investing advice on this channel. Never, I'll always consult with your accountant, your financial advisor. But they did invest in a very, very good time. But if the market goes up and goes down, and they don't sell, then they should hopefully be fine.
So we were saving 70% of our money. That means that 70% of our income was going towards our investments. We were just pouring it all in. And one of the areas that we focused primarily on were our retirement accounts. Now, most people think that you need to be 59 and a half or older in order to access your retirement accounts, but that is not the case. We did a whole video on how you can access your retirement accounts earlier. But when you're on this journey towards financial independence, it is very important to maximize your tax advantage accounts. And most of those accounts are retirement accounts.
And that's one thing that I do. As much as possible, I put in money into my tax accounts. I've got accounts where it's a 401k. I actually have a solo 401k because I'm a solo entrepreneur, where I just put as much money as I can into those accounts. Sure, I technically can't touch them without exceptions until I'm 59 and a half years old, but hopefully I won't have to ever touch that money. That money's just going to sit there. It's going to make me money until then. And when I'm older, I'll touch those accounts. That's something that hopefully a lot of you are doing as well.
Now, of course, you don't want to stop at those retirement accounts. If you want to speed up your retirement date and you want to retire early, the idea is to max out those retirement accounts and then move on to a traditional brokerage account where you're throwing any extra money into those accounts. Because the more that you can invest, the more that you can save, the earlier you can speed up that early retirement date.
Now, most people that traditionally retire put away 10, maybe 15% of their income in order to retire by the age of 60 or 65.
Yeah, putting in 10%, again, you're going to be able to retire by the time you're 65 years old. But if you can put in more money, then you can retire earlier. And that's something that's been a huge movement, the FIRE movement, financial independence, retire early. So if you can do that, I highly recommend as much money as you can save. Just put as much away as possible.
Imagine if you can save more. If you can save more than 10 to 15%, then the math just makes sense. You can retire early. So focus on investing.
So the next tip is really understanding your withdrawal rate or your withdrawal plan during early retirement. This is very important because as you're socking away all your money and your investments into your retirement accounts, into your brokerage accounts, you need to know how you're going to access that money. It's an important component to understanding how you can retire early.
And I love this point because you should know well in advance how you're going to access the money that you are saving and investing. So knowing your drawdown strategy, knowing how you're going to withdraw that money when you achieve financial independence is key.
What a lot of people do is they use what's called the 4% rule. And they say that they're going to withdraw, once they've retired, they're going to withdraw 4% from their accounts every year, and on a reoccurring basis. And how that works is hopefully what it's going to do is that you're going to be able to draw out, it's going to keep, your account's going to keep making you money. Let's say you're getting a 7% return. Well, if you're getting a 7% return and you're just withdrawing 4% from that, you're not going to be drawing too much away from that principal investment, and you could still make money from that. Now, people argue, well, what if the market goes way down and you start withdrawing 4% and that's a larger amount and you really start draining out from your account? Well, you can always adjust as well. If you're living really comfortably off 4% and your accounts go down, well, you could maybe withdraw 3% or 2% and maybe not live as luxuriously for a year or a few years while you're waiting for the market to go back up again. So it's a really interesting concept, and I highly recommend taking a look at it.
So some important things to keep in mind. Are you going to be doing a Roth conversion? Are you going to be doing a 72T? Are you going to be doing dividend payouts and living just primarily on your brokerage accounts? These are all things that you have to understand, and you have to understand them prior to actually pulling the switch and hitting early retirement, because it's a process to understand where you're going to be putting your money and then also how you're going to be pulling it out in order to live off of in early retirement.
Those terms can get really complicated, and that's why for anything like that, I'd highly recommend going to YouTube and just YouTubing all these different terms. There's so much great information out there. You can also go to a professional, which if you're going to make any big decisions, of course, you should talk with an accountant. But there's just so much free information out there that I highly recommend just doing a little bit of research goes a long way. And there's tons of great content on YouTube.
Now, most people will have multiple streams of income when they retire at the traditional age. They'll have their Social Security. Maybe they'll have a pension, their 401k.
Social Security, I'm not banking on any money coming from Social Security. People my age, I'm 40, just the way that the Social Security system is working right now, I don't have any faith that I'm going to be getting maybe any money coming from a Social Security plan. So I don't bank on the government going to be paying me anything in the future. I bank on myself paying myself. So you really need to be thinking about that early and knowing that you need to take care of you.
All of these things, even their HSA, all of these things are a part of your retirement plan.
You know, I was just taking a look at their shirts here. This really interesting fashion. I know they both live in Portugal. They've got a very interesting fashion with his shirt there. I like his glasses. They look like really nice people, and they look like people that would be fun to hang out with.
There is a strategy that you can put together in order to phase how you draw that money down. Maybe you're starting first with your brokerage account. Then you're moving to your Roth IRA, then your 401k. And finally, when you're at the ripe old age to access your Social Security, that money kicks in. You see, it is a holistic, comprehensive approach.
It really is. Like, it's not just one thing. It's not like you just focus on one aspect of this. You really need to be looking at the big picture, how much money you're going to save, where you're going to be putting it, how much you're going to be taking out. I love the way that these two are looking at this.
Christina and I, we have a deferred pension that we are eventually going to get from our jobs. And we have our Social Security that we'll be eligible for. So as we get older, we know how this money is going to be affecting our overall standard of living.
And what about after you retire? Like if you retire at 40, I've heard about a lot of people getting bored. Like, are you going to retire and sit on the beach and drink margaritas all day? Like, probably not. That's it's kind of, maybe it sounds good to someone that's working in an office all day, but people get bored after they retire. So really, after you retire, maybe you're going to start a blog. Maybe you're going to start a YouTube channel. Maybe you're going to write a book. Like, what are these things? Maybe you're going to learn an instrument. All these things that you've been wanting to do maybe your whole life. Maybe you love going hiking. Go hiking every day. Just so many things that you can actually do with your life if you're able to kind of defer all these random things. Like, do you really need the new iPhone or the new iPad or the new MacBook or the new whatever? Like, do you need that big flashy car? If you can avoid these expenses and you can avoid wasting your money on these other things, amazing things can wait for you in the future.
So the next thing to keep in mind, and this is so very important, is to plan for the worst case scenario.
Ooh, the worst case scenario. That's, you can see it right on his face right there. It's things can happen, and it doesn't always go as planned, and you need to be prepared for that.
I know when you're on this FIRE journey, you're always looking for these great things to happen. You retire, you have all this extra time, you get to do the things that you enjoy, but things can happen and you have to plan for them. That means having proper insurance. I mean, there is nothing worse than not being properly insured on your FIRE journey, having a disaster happen, and then having it wipe out all of the progress that you made. So you want to make sure you're properly insured. You want to make sure that you have an adequate emergency fund before you start investing. These are the types of things that you want to take into account along your FIRE journey, because that will help secure the assets or the portfolio that you have been growing in order to retire early.
For me, my emergency fund, I like to keep at least $100,000 in cash, and or at least in an accessible high interest savings account. And that, for some people, probably for even them, they would say that's too much. But I like to know that if there is a big market crash, if something happens, that I'm not sitting there going, oh my goodness, all my money's gone. What if it never goes back up again? Like with that money in cash sitting there, I know, okay, I can sit this out. I've got enough cash. I'm still earning passive income from my other investments and from other work that I'm doing. I'll be okay. So it's almost kind of like insurance. So it's panic insurance so that I don't do something that I'm going to regret.
And you have to plan for the things when you are in early retirement. So we have 2 little girls. We have to send them off to college at some point. So we're making those types of plans. And maybe you have elderly parents and your elderly parents will come live with you. What financial obligations will you have when they move in?
Parents moving in. Now, this is something that's interesting. As someone who I'm married to someone from Turkey, it's very interesting the differences between how elder care exists in like European countries and overseas as compared to the United States, where a lot of people go off into like nursing homes and stuff. So it's interesting that for here, it's almost like it's a very big taboo to put people into a nursing home, where in the States it's much more the norm. So you do need to be prepared for that. Are you going to be having these people, these people being your parents or your wife or your husband's parents come and live with you, or are you going to be having to support them financially? Do you need to pay for a nursing home or pay for assisted living or something like that? These expenses, unexpected expenses, can really add up in life
that you have to take into consideration. And so our action to you is to write these all down in a plan. Know them before you encounter them.
Because another thing to keep in mind is when you are assessing all of your future responsibilities and the money that you're going to need in early retirement, those numbers are going to impact your FIRE number. So you do not want to have a FIRE number that's calculated too low, because obviously you do not want to run out of money in early retirement. So taking care of all of these future expenses, understanding where that money is going to come from and how much money you're going to need is very important.
I always like to, whenever I'm making these calculations, I always put my numbers on the low end. So even when I'm doing my net worth calculations, as far as like the value of my house or any rentals or any property that I have, I always like to put them on the lower side, just so I know that I'm not exaggerating things. And if it ends up being worth more in the future, that's great. But I'd rather find out that it was worth more than worth less.
Next actionable tip is to create a side hustle.
Oh, you gotta have a side hustle, especially in this day and age. Your main hustle cannot be your only hustle.
Look at that. They've got, looks like they're building some stuff here. They're making extra money. And it looks like that's probably their passion. And what's fun for them, which they're not sitting in an office all day long and wasting their life away. So that's incredible.
We are very passionate about creating a side hustle on your road to financial independence, because really there is only so much money you can save. And so the more money that you can make, the more money that you can invest on your road to financial independence. Amon and I had tons of side hustles on our road to financial independence.
We were side hustling our butts off.
The thing is, a lot of people, they focus on saving. They're like, okay, I'm not going to spend this extra money on this Starbucks coffee today, or I'm not going to spend this extra money on food or whatever. If you can make more money, if you focus more on making an extra $20 a day rather than saving an extra $5 a day, it can make a huge difference.
Creating furniture. We were selling things. We were buying things on discount and reselling them. We were selling wine crate boxes that we got for free. We were Uber drivers. We had so many things that we were implementing as side hustles on our road to financial independence.
I love this hustle. People that are willing to put in just a little bit of work, and they've got that drive, and that's their passion. I mean, look how successful these two have been. It's incredible. Congratulations. If you're watching this, congratulations. You've done an amazing job.
And the last and most important action we have for you is to get your money mindset right. Because on this journey, your mindset is key. If you believe that you will not achieve financial independence, you will not achieve it. If you believe that you will achieve it.
You know, I used to be one of these people that saw mindset. Whenever I started hearing people talking about mindset, especially with things like The Secret, where like vision boards and all these things, like if you can believe, if you can dream it, you can achieve it or whatever. I used to think it was all a bunch of kind of hokey pokey, but there is some like basis behind it. Like just because you put a you draw a big picture of a big mansion on a board and a big fast car and all this money and beautiful women and all that doesn't mean that it's actually going to happen. But what it does do is it creates goals. And if you're just kind of wandering about and you don't really have any goals, if like people ask you, have you achieved your success, but you don't know what your success is, then you just keep on wandering. And if you're wandering, other people, if you don't have goals, other people will create goals for you that are their goals, not your goals. So you definitely need to have some kind of a like a positive, but realistic direction in the way that you're going with your life, and that can definitely help point you in the right direction.
Trust me, there are two ways that you can approach this. You will encounter challenges. You will encounter limiting beliefs, but your mindset will help you get through them.
With limited beliefs, it's interesting also, people around you, if you tell them that you want to retire early, they'll kind of look at you like crazy, like, what are you, lazy or something? People don't understand it. They don't understand the fact that there really is an opportunity out there, even for people that aren't making tons of money. Just because you don't have $100,000 a year salary, you can retire early, even if you've got a lower salary, if you do the math right, and if you have a realistic outcome that you're going for. I mean, if you're someone that's making $30,000 a year and you want to retire in 10 years, but you want to have a reasonable monthly income coming in, that's achievable. If you think that you're going to retire with $10,000 a month coming in, well, maybe that might not necessarily be possible, but it's all in the math. I'm not a big math person. I have to write things down. I have to use calculators. And I think a lot of people are also like that as well. Maybe you are too. So just if you can sit down with some of these calculators, I'm going to show you one right here that's a really great calculator. This one's called Net Worthify, and it's when can I retire? And what you can do with this, you can go in, you can put in your annual income. So let's say your annual income is $50,000 a year. You can say, what's your current savings rate? So here's your current annual savings. Maybe you're able to save 40% of your income. What's your current portfolio value? Let's say you've got $100,000 in the stock market, and here you've got an annual return on your investment is 5%. Actually, the stock market is in general, they say it has a 7% return on investment. Let's just put it at 6 just to be a little more conservative here. And your withdrawal rate is 4%. So if you're making $50,000 and you're currently saving 40% of that, you save 20,000, you're making 6%, you've got a current portfolio of 100,000, you can technically retire in 15 years. But here's what happens. If you get a raise, and let's say you get a raise up to 70,000, that number goes down 5 years there. I mean, and if you have more money in your accounts, if you've got $200,000 in there already, it goes down to 8 years. If you're starting from zero, it's obviously going to take you longer to do this. If you get a $70,000 salary and you have a zero portfolio, like you have nothing right now, but you can still, if you put away a large chunk of your income, you can retire in 12 years from now. I mean, just go in here, it's networthify.com. I'll put a link to it in the description. Definitely check this out and play with it, because it can help you to figure out when you can retire. And it makes these things, like if you look at the numbers here, it makes things much more achievable and realistic.
So your mindset is very important in thinking positively, but also in thinking creatively. So thinking of ways that you can solve problems. For Amon and I, when we lived in the Bay Area, we did not have enough money to invest in real estate. We could have just quit right there. We could have never invested in real estate, but we figured out a way to invest in real estate with only $20,000 down. We flipped it into 3 different properties and walked away with $400,000 in profits.
Whoa, that's $20,000 turned into $400,000. I mean, these people are incredible when it comes to like making investments and hustling. So they put in the effort. So don't think that getting these kinds of results is going to be just like sit on your butt and push a button to have money coming in. They've put in the work, but they've also gotten the reward.
That is because we had a creative mindset and figured out how to get into the market in the Bay Area and to return huge profits for us. So think positively, think creatively, and have a can-do mindset on your road to financial independence.
I hope you enjoyed this video today. I gotta say that I'm really impressed with what they were able to do, especially turning $20,000 into $400,000. I'm sure that went a long way into helping them build up their portfolio into having over $2.5 million in assets. That's just simply incredible. You can see that anyone can do this, but you need to put in some work in order to make that happen. And of course, don't forget to hit that like button if you like this video. It really helps out with my YouTube channel. Also, if you're not subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button and bell notification. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again in my next video.